Yogah Karmasu Kaushalam.
Hello friends, this is Dr. Neelam Panchal from Gujarat University and I welcome you all in this session on centralization, meaning and characteristics. Friends, let me introduce you to the topic. Centralization is a foundational concept in both organizational theory and governance, referring to the concentration of the decision-making authority within a singular entity or leadership structure. Now, these approach contrast with the decentralization where the authority and responsibility are distributed among various levels or regions. So, centralization has played a very crucial role in shaping institutions, businesses and government systems throughout the history, influencing how decisions are made and how power is exercised. In modern context, the relevance of the centralization continues to evolve, driven by the technological advancements, globalization, and changing societal expectations. Organizations often adopt centralized structure to achieve uniformity and streamline operations, while governments may centralize authority to enhance the control and efficiency. However, the balance between the centralization and a decentralization remains a continuous topic, as each approach carries its own advantages and disadvantages. So, this session is aiming to explore the concept of centralization in depth, examining the historical context, various forms and implications of both the business and governance. And by analyzing all this in the benefits and the drawbacks of the centralization, in this session we will try to gain an insight into enduring the significance and importantly the factors influencing its implementation in the contemporary society. So friends, ultimately this exploration will underscore the importance of the understanding centralization as a strategic choice and that can shape the effectiveness and adaptability of the organization and government alike. Let us try to understand the objectives of the session. So, the objectives here are providing a comprehensive understanding of the centralization, its implications and its relevance, importantly in the today's complex organizational government landscapes. So, the objectives are to define centralization, to explore the historical context, to analyze the centralization in business, to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages and to look into the importance in the organizational and governmental structures. Let us try to look into the historical context. Centralization has a deep roots in the human history, evolving significantly over the time and shaping various political, economical and organizational structures. Understanding the historical context provides insight into how centralization has influenced governance and institutions globally. So, let us look into the ancient civilizations. In the ancient societies, centralization often emerged as a means of establishing orders and control. Empires such those of the Egyptians, Persians, Romans demonstrated centralized authority through strong relationship and a strong leadership and a bureaucratic systems. The pharaohs of the Egypt wielded absolute power, controlling the resources and governance from a centralized capital, while the Roman Empire developed an extensive administrative framework to manage its vast territories. The next period came was a medieval and a Renaissance period. So, during the medieval period, many European kingdoms began to centralize power in response to feudal fragmentation. Monarchs consolidated authority to create the stronger, more unified states, and the centralization of the power became the hallmark of the governance, with the monarchies such as those in France and England asserting the control over the regional lords. The Renaissance period saw further centralization as the nation states emerged and the rulers sought to establish their dominance through centralized bureaucratic institutions. The next era came was the Enlightenment and the modern era. So, the Enlightenment brought about the new ideas about governance, emphasizing rationality and efficiency. These intellectual movements influenced centralization, particularly in the formation of the modern nation states. The French Revolution exemplified this shift as the revolutionary government centralized authority to promote the equity and streamline administration. Friends, in the 19th and 20th centuries, industrialization further propelled centralization in both the business and the government. Corporations adopted centralized structures to manage the large-scale production and distribution, while the government centralized authority to regulate economies and respond to the social changes. The next stage was the post-World War II developments. So, the aftermath of the World War II saw a significant shift toward the centralization in many nations, particularly in the context of the welfare states. Governments expanded their roles in managing economies and providing social services, leading to the more centralized decision-making processes. Internationalization organizations such as the United Nations also emerged with the centralized structures to address the global issues. Next is late 20th century to present. Friends, in the recent decades, globalization and technological advancements have reshaped the dynamics of the centralization. While some organizations have adopted centralized structure for efficiency, others have embraced decentralization to foster the innovation and responsiveness. The rise of the digital technologies has enabled new forms of centralized data management and decision making, while also empowering local entities. Overall, the historical context of the centralization illustrates its adaptive nature and enduring significance. From ancient empires to the modern corporations and the governments, centralization has played a very crucial role in shaping the authority, governance, and organizational efficiency across the different eras and the context. Understanding this evolution helps inform contemporary discussions about the balance between the centralization and the decentralization in today's complex world. Let us try to understand the characteristics of the centralization. Friends, centralization possesses several defining characteristics that distinguish it from the decentralized systems. So, understanding these traits is very essential for comprehending its impact and organization and the governance. So, let us look into the key characteristics of the centralization. Number one is concentration of the authority. Now, it involves decision making power. So, friends, centralization involves concentration of the decision-making authority at a higher levels of the management or government. This means that the strategic choices and the policies are made by a select group of individuals or a single leader. Next is a clear hierarchical structure. A well-defined hierarchy exists with a clear line of authority and a responsibility. So, lower level of organization typically have limited authority and autonomy. Next is uniformity and consistency, and it involves standardized policies. So, centralization often leads to the establishment of the uniform policies and the procedures across the organization or government, ensuring the consistency in operations and the decision making. Next is coherent direction. So, centralized systems promote a unified vision and a direction which can enhance organizational coherence and focus. Next is efficiency in communication. It involves number one, streamline processes. So, centralization can facilitate faster communication and decision making processes since fewer people are involved in approvals and the discussions. Next is a top down communication. So, information and directives flows from the top down, which can simplify the dissemination of the decisions and policies. Next is a resource control, and it involves centralized resource allocation. So, friends, resources including finances and personnel are managed and allocated by the central authorities, allowing for coordinated use and a management focus across the organization. Next is a strategic resource management. Now, these control can lead to the more strategic and efficient use of the resources, aligning them with the overall organizational goals. Next is enhance accountability, and involves clear responsibility. So, with the authority concentrated at the top, accountability is very important and clearer, and it is very easy to identify who is responsible for the decisions and the outcomes. Next is a performance monitoring. So, centralized systems often implement standardized metrics for evaluating the performance, making it easier to assess the effectiveness. Next is reduced local autonomy. It involves limited local decision making. So, the local branches or the units may have little to no authority to make the independent decisions, leading to potential discontent or inefficiencies in addressing the local needs. Next is a dependence on the central authority. So, employees and local managers often rely on the central authority for guidance and decisions, which can slow responsiveness to the specific challenges. Next is a potential for bureaucracy. So, the formalized procedure is one. The centralization can lead to the development of the formalized procedure and bureaucratic structures, which may introduce rigidity and slow down innovation. Next is increased paperwork. So, the need for the documentation and approval processes can result in increased paperwork and procedural delays. Next is a focus on stability and control. So, it involves number one, risk management. Centralized systems often prioritize steady and control, so seeking to minimize its risk through established protocols and oversight. Next is change resistance. Centralization can sometimes result in resistance to change, as the central authority may be reluctant to adapt to the new circumstances. Now, these characteristics highlight how centralization can shape organizational culture, efficiency, and decision-making processes. Friends, understanding these traits is a very crucial for evaluating the effectiveness of the centralization in various contexts and for considering when alternative approaches such as decentralization might be more beneficial. Let us try to understand the advantages of centralization. So, centralization offers several benefits that can enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of the organizations. Let us look into what are the advantages. So, the first here is consistency and uniformity. So, friends, it involves standardized policies. Centralized decision making ensures that the policies and the procedures are uniformly applied across the organization, which can help in maintain the brand integrity and compliance with the regulations. Next is coherent strategy. So, a unified approach to strategy helps align all the departments toward common goals, reducing the risk of the conflicting objectives. Next is a efficient decision making. It involves number one, faster decisions. So, with the fewer individuals involved in the decision making process, centralization can lead to the quicker resolutions, particularly in urgent situations. Next is a reduced complexity. Centralization simplifies the decision making framework, minimizing the need for the extensive discussion and approvals. Next is enhanced control and accountability. So, the clear accountability is the first point, and with the authority concentrated at the top, it's easier to assign the responsibility for the decisions and the outcomes, leading to improved accountability. Next is a performance monitoring. So, the centralized system allows for a streamlined monitoring of the performance and adherence to the policies, facilitating easier evaluation of the results. Next is a cost efficiency. It involves resource optimization. Centralization can lead to more efficient allocation of the resources, reducing redundancies and unnecessary expenditures. Next is economies of scale. So, by consolidating operations, organizations can achieve cost savings through bulk purchasing and streamlined processes. Next point is a strong leadership and direction. Friends, the first here is a clear vision. Centralized organizations benefit from the strong leadership, providing a clear vision and a direction that guides the entire organization. Next is a cohesive culture. So, a unified leadership can foster a comprehensive organization structure, and importantly, it leads to the cohesive culture and employee alignment with the common values and the goals of the company. Next is improved risk management, and improved risk management includes number one, consistent policies. That is, centralization allows for the implementation of the consistent risk management policies which can reduce the vulnerabilities and enhance the organizational resilience. Next is a controlled change. So, centralized control over the changes helps manage transitions more effectively, ensuring that all the parts of the organization are aligned with the new initiatives. Next is a facilitated communication, and it involves streamlined communication. So, with a clear hierarchical structure, communication channels are more direct, allowing for the quicker dissemination of the information and decisions. Next is a top-down clarity. Instructions and directives from the top management can be clearly seen and articulated and understood at all the levels of the organization. Next is a simplified management structure. It involves less confusion. A centralized approach minimizes the ambiguity regarding the authority and decision making, reducing potential conflict and confusion among the employees. The next is easier training and development. So, the training programs can be standardized and centrally coordinated, ensuring that all the employees receive the consistent information and guidance. While centralization presents several advantages, it is essential for organizations to assess their specific needs and circumstances. The benefits of the centralization can lead to improved efficiency, consistency and a control, making it a strategic choice in the certain context. However, the organization should remain mindful of the potential drawbacks and strive to find the right balance between the centralization and decentralization to foster the innovation and responsiveness. Now, let us try to understand the disadvantages of the centralization. While the centralization offers the numerous advantages that we have seen, it also has several drawbacks that organizations should consider. Let's look into what are the disadvantages. So, the first is reduced local responsiveness. Now, in that, the first is limited autonomy. So, the local managers may lack the authority to make the decisions that address specific market needs or customer preferences, potentially leading to the missed opportunities. Next is slower reaction times. So, centralized decision making can hinder the organization's ability to respond quickly to changes in the environment or competitive landscape. Next is overburdened management, and it involves decision making bottlenecks. So, when all the decisions must go through the top management, it can overwhelm leaders and slow down the decision making process. Next is increased pressure. Centralized leaders may face significant pressure due to the volume of the decisions that they must take, so which can lead to the burnout or a poor judgment. Next is potential for bureaucracy. So, the rigid processes is one. Centralization can create the bureaucratic structures that are resistant to the change and innovation, swiftly creating within the organization. Next is excessive formalization. So, the need for the formal procedures can lead to the increased paperwork and administrative delays, slowing down the operations. Next point is employee disengagement. So, it involves number one, limited involvement. So, the employees at the lower levels may feel disempowered and disengaged due to the lack of the input in the decision making processes. Next is a lower morale. So, a centralized structure can lead to the dissatisfaction among the employees to desire greater autonomy and involvement in shaping their work environment. Next is a risk of poor decision making. It involves over reliance on the top management. So, the centralized organizations may become overly reliant on a few individuals, increasing the risk of the poor decision making if those leaders lack diverse perspective or information. Next is a groupthink. So, a centralized approach can lead to groupthink where dissenting opinions are discouraged, reducing the quality of the decisions. Next is a inflexibility. Resistance to change is the first. Centralized organization may struggle to adapt to the new trends or innovations as change often requires approval from the top management. Difficulty in implementing the local initiatives is another point. So, the initiatives that could enhance the local operations may be ignored or rejected if they do not align with the centralized policies. Next point is higher risk of centralized failure. So, it involves the impact of the leadership changes. So, changes in the top management can significantly affect the entire organization, leading to instability or shifts in the strategic direction. Next is a vulnerability to errors. So, if the central decision makers make mistakes, the consequences can affect the entire organization rather than just a single unit or a department. While the centralization can enhance the consistency, efficiency, and control, it also poses significant challenges related to flexibility, employee engagement, and decision making quality. Organizations must carefully evaluate the trade offs associated with the centralization and consider the specific context and the goals. So, striking the right balance between the centralization and the decentralization, it can help mitigate these disadvantages while leveraging the strength of a centralized approach. Now, after understanding all about the centralization and decentralization, let me summarize the session. Friends, we have seen that centralization is a critical organizational structure that can significantly impact how businesses and governments operate. By concentrating decision making authority at higher levels, centralization offers numerous advantages, including consistency, efficiency, and enhanced control. Now, these benefits can lead to streamlined operations, unified strategies, and a clear accountability, making centralization an attractive option for many organizations, particularly in the situations requiring rapid decision making or strict adherence to the standards. However, centralization also comes with the notable disadvantages: reduced local responsiveness, potential bureaucratic delays, and a lower employee engagement can hinder an organization's ability to adapt to the changing circumstances and foster the innovation. Moreover, over reliance on the top management can lead to the poor decision making and a lack of the diverse perspectives. Ultimately, the effectiveness of the centralization depends on the specific context and the goals of the organization. While it can provide significant benefits, it is also crucial to balance the centralized control with the opportunities for the local autonomy and innovation. Organizations should carefully assess their operational needs, industry demands, and cultural dynamics to determine the most appropriate structure for achieving the objectives. And by doing so, they can harness the strengths of the centralization while mitigate its drawbacks, positioning themselves for the sustained success in the competitive landscapes. So, I hope you are clear with all the fundamentals of the centralization, decentralization, its features, advantages and disadvantages, and hope you like the session. Thank you.